is Kenta, and today I would like to talk about brick films. This is a brief example of what a brick film is like. The way I started making brick films is when I really like to take pictures of my Lego. And when I was looking at my pictures, I saw that the minifig was actually moving, and I thought, well, I should make more of this. And so I did. Brick films are a type of stop-motion animation, and stop-motion animation is moving something a little bit, taking a picture of it, moving something a little bit again, and taking a picture of it, and repeating that quite a few times. The types of stop-motion animation is flicker pad. To do a flicker pad, you write separate images on an old book that you don't need, and when you flick the book like you're reading it really fast, it looks like the objects in your book are moving. And most cartoons you see on TV is stop-motion animation. There is computer graphics animation like Nemo, and there is claymation like Wallace and Gromit. The big magic about stop-motion animation is turning something that can't move into something that moves. The 5 rules I use to make a brick film is keeping the camera stable in front of the set. Because if the camera is just on the ground, when you click the button, the camera moves slightly, and you lose the audience's attention from what you want them to actually see. Same for keeping the set in front of the camera. Because if the set suddenly moves, the attention is gone again. When you make a brick film, you got to keep the lighting in the same position. Because if the light is moving every time you take one picture, it's going to be quite confusing. Like there's a thunderstorm going on in the background. Well, the 4th rule is keeping avoiding reflections. I was making a little scene in a room, and then the shiny plastic bricks reflected me quite a lot. So I moved the lights so that I don't reflect. But you have to try at least 5 times to move the lights, or else you won't really get a good scene, because there will be a big giant moving on the wall, and that's not really cool. The 5th rule is to continue each movement that was going on in the last shot. Let's say you want a minifig walking down the street and somebody poking his head out the window. Now that might seem simple, but actually it is quite hard to remember. You move the minifig, okay. You move the guy out in the window, okay. You take the shot, okay. But you can't focus on all 3 things at the same time, and then you might accidentally get the guy to come out the window or only move the guy that's walking, and suddenly one of those will freeze, just like a teacher says freeze. 20 years ago, making a brick film was impossible because there were no digital cameras. To take one picture, you got to go to the camera store, the guy would turn it into a picture. I mean, that's nowhere near a brick film. But now we have digital cameras, so it can take thousands and thousands and thousands of shots without paying any money. The camera stand I use is my homemade Lego camera stand. This thing on the bottom, this screw on the bottom, you can probably get at any camera store, and if you just want the screw version, you could get it at any hardware store. For people that just begin making animations, 3-legged tripod is fine because it doesn't bump so much. So if you want to understand stop-motion animation, you've got to understand frames per second, FPS short. Now this is a 10 frames per second video. this is a 5 frames per second video. You see the difference? The 10 frames per second video was smooth, but the 5 frames per second video was choppy. So the more frames per second you have, the smoother your movie is. But even the 10 frames per second is a little bumpy. Movie making software I use is Movie Maker. This white space here is where you put in the pictures. And this black space here is where you play the video. And if you see a little mistake, you change the order in the white space. This is probably in most of your computers, and it's a free download. You can add a title to your video, you can add credits, you can trim your video, you can add music, you can do all sorts of things. You can't make a brick film on PowerPoint, you can't do it on Google Drive, but you can do it on Movie Maker. The graphic software that I use is Paint. There are certain things you just can't take on camera, like a laser beam. That's what I bump into quite a few times. So I use Microsoft Paint and draw a laser beam. If you just want a complicated version of this, you can get GIMP. This is a free download too. This is an example of a movie that I used editing softwares a lot. This looks like there's a bird flying in the sky, but actually there's a stick connected to the bottom of it. And I use the editing softwares to take a bit of the background that's similar to the background behind the stick and put it onto the stick so it doesn't look like it's just on a stick. This is an example of a movie that I made with my friend. And this is about 10 frames per second, that's why it's a little bit bumpy. And this is a cool way you can use reflections deliberately. See, on the black wall, there's a dinosaur coming in. And this we deliberately put a reflection on to make it cool. So now that you know the editing softwares I use, my 5 rules, and the graphic softwares I use, I hope you can go home and make one for yourself. Thank you.